The Tuskegee syphilis experiment was a medical study conducted by the United States Public Health Service from 1932 to 1972. It was a tragic and unethical medical event involving the experimentation of African American men with syphilis. The study was conducted in Macon County, Alabama. It was named after the Tuskegee Institute, a historically black college in the same state. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment was conducted at a time when syphilis was a widespread disease that affected many people, especially in rural areas. The USPHS wanted to understand the natural progression of the disease and find a cure for it. However, the way they went about conducting the study was deeply flawed and unethical. Before we continue, it's best that we discuss what syphilis is. Syphilis is a sexually transmitted infection caused by the bacterium Treponema pallidum. The infection is spread through sexual contact, including vaginal, anal, and oral sex. Syphilis can also be transmitted from a mother to her unborn child during pregnancy or childbirth. The symptoms of syphilis can be mild or non-existent in the early stages, but if left untreated, the disease can cause serious health problems, including damage to the heart, brain, and other organs. Treatment for syphilis typically involves antibiotics, which can cure the infection if caught early. Syphilis progresses through several stages, each with its own set of symptoms. These stages are primary syphilis. The first stage of syphilis typically begins with the appearance of a small, painless sore called a chancre at the site of infection, such as genitals, anus, or mouth. The sore usually appears 10 to 90 days after infection and can go unnoticed. The sore will heal on its own in 3 to 6 weeks, even without treatment. Secondary syphilis. If left untreated, the infection will progress to the secondary stage, which typically occurs 4 to 10 weeks after the appearance of the chancre. Symptoms include a rash on the palms of the hands and soles of the feet, fever, sore throat, fatigue, and swollen lymph nodes. These symptoms may go away within weeks or months, even without treatment. Latent syphilis. If syphilis is remained untreated, it can progress to the latent stage, where there are no visible symptoms. This stage can last for years. Tertiary syphilis. If syphilis remains untreated, it can progress to the late or tertiary stage. This stage can occur several years after the initial infection and can lead to serious complications, including damage to the heart, brain, and nervous system, blindness, and even death. It is important to note that even if there are no visible symptoms, syphilis can still be transmitted during the early and late stages of the disease. Regular testing and early treatment are important to prevent long-term complications and reduce the spread of the infection. The researchers recruited 399 African American men who were infected with syphilis and 201 who were not. The men were told that they were receiving free medical treatment for the bad blood, a term commonly used in the area to describe various ailments. However, the researchers never told the men that they had syphilis, nor did they inform them of the true nature of the study. The men were given placebos instead of actual treatment and were left untreated for decades, even when penicillin became widely available as a cure for the disease in the 1940s. The researchers continued to monitor the progression of the disease in the men, even though they knew they were risking their lives. The men were never allowed to consent or withdraw from the study, and the experience forever altered their lives. There are several reasons why the Tuskegee experiment is considered to be so heinous. It was a violation of ethical principles. The study violated numerous ethical principles, including informed consent, respect for persons, and beneficence. The participants were not informed of the nature of the study and were not given the option to leave the study or receive proper treatment. It perpetuated racial discrimination. The study targeted African American men and perpetuated racial discrimination in medical research and practice. The researchers chose African American men because they believed that they were more likely to have syphilis and were less likely to seek treatment. It caused harm to participants. The participants in the studies were left untreated even after effective treatments were discovered, causing them to suffer from the debilitating effects of syphilis, such as blindness, deafness, and neurological damage. The Tuskegee experiment eroded trust in the medical community, particularly among African Americans. It reinforced the belief that the medical community did not have their best interests at heart and could not be trusted. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment became public attention in the 1970s when a whistleblower exposed the study's unethical practices. The study was immediately terminated, and the USPHS apologized for its actions in 1997. In a speech given by President Clinton in that same year, he formally apologized for the US government's involvement in the study. The legacy of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment lives on, however. It symbolizes the racism and disregard for human life that has been pervasive in medical research throughout history. As a result, the men's families involved in the study have suffered greatly, and the efforts have been made to address their grievances and seek justice for them. In recent years, there have been efforts to make amends for the Tuskegee syphilis experiment through restorative justice practices. The practices involve in acknowledging the harm done to the families and providing resources for them to heal and move forward. The experiment led to significant changes in medical ethics, both in the United States and globally. In 1974, the National Research Act was passed in the U.S., which established the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. The Commission developed the Belmont Report, which outlines the ethical principles of respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. These principles form the basis of current guidelines for ethical research involving human subjects. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment also led to the establishment of institutional review boards, which are responsible for reviewing and approving research studies involving human subjects. IRBs ensure that research studies are conducted ethically and in accordance with the principles outlined in the Belmont Report. In addition to these changes in policy and regulation, the experiment also had significant impact on medical education and practice. Medical schools now include courses on medical ethics, and physicians are required to adhere to ethical principles in their practice. The incident also led to the increase of attention to issues of health disparities and discriminations in medical research and practice. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment remains a cautionary tale for the medical community and society. It reminds us of the importance of ethics in research and the need for public accountability and transparency. Long gone are the days where patients were left in the dark about what is happening to them in experimentation.